at the knife crime problem and the violence in the UK. Taking a step back to over my sides, the last few videos I've done is been in the States. This one is back to the UK, so we're going to take a little look and see what's going on.
London is on a knife edge, with the capital recording a new knife crime incident every 30 minutes.
So what ages are we talking about that this starts from?
Talking about 11, 12, as younger.
Carrying a zombie knife?
Yes, what? 100%.
Despite volunteers' best efforts to stop the scourge of stabbings, menacing blades, swords and machetes continue to flood the streets.
What purpose, can these retailers have to be sending these kind of weapons out to tower blocks?
They know why they're selling them and sending them out. Come on, they know exactly what they're doing.
In Hackney, there's weapons here with compasses on the bottom of them. Camping. Who's camping in Hackney?
So what can be done to turn the tide of grief and loss?
The only camping they're doing in Hackney and them places is camping outside your house with them blades.
Are the police taking the right course of action, and should the Mayor of London be doing even more?
This is not a black thing. This is a societal thing. This is an epidemic.
This is the real story of knife crime in London.
Knife crime is a problem that has blighted London for decades. Despite previously being dismissed as a race or gang issue, a series of alarming and unprovoked attacks have left many in the capital fearing for their safety.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I would say at first the knife crime started out to be more of a gang thing, because when they changed the law and carrying firearms, which I still think they need to change the law on knives. You know, when they changed the law on firearms and the people's getting big sentences, people didn't really want to start walking with knives, so the firearms, so they switched to knives. But these days, I wouldn't say it's gangs. Everyone carry a knife now, and it's not just a black thing. You know what I mean? You got whites, Asians, blacks, everyone carrying a knife. So it's not really so much a black or gang thing now. It's just everyone carrying a knife, because everyone know. It's like people who I've spoke to mainly say, because everyone's got a knife, they feel safe if they've got one. You know what I mean?
And the victims are often tragically young. In 2023 alone, 18 teenagers lost their lives to a blade in London.
A teenage boy has been arrested after a 15-year-old girl was stabbed to death on her way to school in South London.
Alian Andam fatally stabbed protecting a friend from a foot-long knife on a bus in Croydon. 16-year-old Harry Pittman went out to watch the fireworks and celebrate the new year, but never made it home. And the aspiring young boxer, 20-year-old Bradley Hutchins. None of these killings were affiliated with any gangs. Shockingly, these attacks are no longer confined to the cover of darkness. They're happening in broad daylight, in busy areas, in front of horrified onlookers. Figures from the Met Police show incidents involving a knife in the last year have risen to nearly the same level of the pre-pandemic high.
Wow.
One man who's trying to reverse the trend is Farron Paul. Operating his own amnesty, Farron is regularly contacted by concerned members of the public.
Yeah, I've been following this guy for a while. I like what he does. You know, I mean, he might. I'm not sure if he'll probably explain what he does. So I'm gonna make the video run.
Eager to get weapons off the street, we received a tip-off that a knife collection was taking place, but nothing could prepare us for the scale of what we'd see next. And even Farron is shocked at the sheer volume of this latest collection.
This is quite a substantial one. I think this could be the biggest that we've done.
That is crazy. Look at that. That is crazy. And you know what? That is it Timu or Timu? Sometimes I'm on Instagram, swiping Instagram, and that Temu will pop up with pictures of knives, and they're selling like knives for like £1 and £5, and we're talking Rambo blades. You know what I mean? Some serious blades.
Man's got a sharpener. Let's just say dude's well equipped in it.
Alarmingly, all of these blades, knives and weapons came from one single person.
I've run this weapon for the best part of 5 years now. And a lot of my communication and interaction comes through social media. I believe that when somebody comes into the position where they've got weapons to get rid of, I'm the first person that comes to mind. On this particular occasion, when your team followed me out, it was from one of my long-term followers.
I picked up a lot of weapons, but these ones are kind of surprising me still. They look dangerous to you.
What is
See, there's
that?
wood in it. And you take off that.
Jeez, that looked like
Yeah.
something. That looked like something out of one of them horror movies.
Younger female family member of his, their boyfriend is keeping all the stuff in the house, and he spoke to them to get rid of him.
Some Games
and
of Thrones
They came
shit.
to an arrangement to hand it over to me
Why do you think people pick up knives like this then?
because they're easily accessible.
Yeah,
One, you can go
definitely.
online. For instance, I went and picked up a weapon of a young person. Their mum contacted me, and the person's 40 in her hand. It's normal for a parent to give their younger child a bank card, whether they open an account for them or they're letting them use their card. And this guy's explained to me that he's gone online, he's managed to buy a weapon and then get it transferred to an Amazon lockbox, which he'd only need a code, no ID needed, no questions asked, and it's going to get delivered on mummy's doorstep. Imagine this got delivered to someone's house through the mail, and that never went through your letterbox, did you? That's going to be someone clearly knocking the door saying, "Hiya, special delivery for you," or something like that. What purpose, yeah, can these retailers have to be sending these kind of weapons out to tower blocks in Hackney?
They know.
Do you know what I mean? There's weapons here with compasses on the bottom of them. Camping. Who's camping in Hackney?
What's the youngest person that you've ever collected a knife from?
11 years old. Like
11 years old, you know. 11
we
year
could take
old.
away all the designer knives now, and we still got to face the prospect of people using kitchen knives.
We showed the footage of Farron's Hall to anti-knife activist Donna Murray Turner. She's the Safer Neighbourhood Chair for Croydon.
I want to say shocked, but I'm not shocked. Disappointed, almost. Why? You want to ask questions. How unsafe must one human feel to have that much armoury around them, accessible to them? I would like to speak to that individual just to hear them talk about why they think that is so necessary.
Zombie knives and machetes seem to be getting longer and more menacing, popularised as the weapon of choice for gangs. Max used to be part of a gang and has asked us to protect his identity. He turned his back on a life of crime and now tries to help other young people escape through the charity Project Lifeline.
This generation is way worse than my generation. They're not listening. They start fights over Instagram. Social media plays a big, big part of
Yeah,
it. Fame,
facts.
money, drugs, girls. It's a clout thing. This new generation is all for clout. But they think in their head that that's the best thing in the world, which is not. They'll come to realize that, and when they do, it's going to be too late.
And what sort of weapons are youths carrying about now?
Zombie knives, that's like the most.
Yeah, I don't know how many people from the UK watch my videos. I'm gonna have to try and look into that. But hey, if any one of you guys from the UK, you know what, it doesn't even have to be a UK thing, to be honest. But if anyone got an idea, in a way you think we can try and sort this out, because one of my boys, he talks to youths, and you know what I mean, he has sit downs and try and get to the bottom of this. But with me personally, I always say it's an age thing, you know what I mean. And if you're gonna get elders talk to you when you're a certain age, you ain't gonna listen. Because when I was running around doing my craziness, when I was like in my young, you know what I mean, when I was younger, I'm not old, by the way, I'm not old, but when I was younger, I didn't really listen to anything the elders had to say, and they obviously been there, you know what I mean. Like now I've been there, and if I talk to youths like say 15, 16, 7, even 17, 18, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear nothing I have to say, you know what I mean. So if anyone got any ideas, I can actually take your idea to someone who actually work in this field, who's actually trying to put an end to it, or you know what I mean, a way to calm it down. So put it in the comments and let me know, or reach out to me via my Instagram.
Common thing now. Knives that look like swords. Like, it's really bad. This generation's worst. For me, I'm saying I'm 30 now. For my generation, all the way through to this generation, it's a lot going on. Mental health plays a big part in all of these kids' life, or what's going on with their life. People need to start looking into these youths.
What do kids say to you when you ask them why they're carrying?
People gonna hate when I say this, but I know mental health seems to be a problem, but for some reason I'm just old school. I've never really believe in the mental health thing. You know what I mean? And don't hate me for that. And I think it's just growing up around my grandmother and growing up. I don't know how do I break it down. Like now, it seems to be a lot of the violence that youths do and adults, they blame it on their mental health. But when parents was whipping them kids and kids was getting, sorry, I'm not saying, like, and I mean, I've never put my hand on my daughter. I never slapped my daughter. You know what I mean? And to be honest, even me saying I wouldn't put my hand on my daughter, I learned that by growing up. You know what I mean? Through maturing into a grown man, that hitting a child ain't the way to go. You know what I mean? So I think everything that you learn in life, it comes with age. You know? Yeah. So with me personally, when it comes to the mental health side of it, I think when parents used to, what's the nicest way to say it? When parents was allowed to discipline their kids, this wasn't so much of a problem. But now, um, the parents are not really allowed to discipline kids no more. And what I find is kids are running wild, and the teachers are scared of the kids, the parents are scared of the kids, and the kids ain't scared of no one. You know what I mean? And also, I think a lot of the stems as well from homes where there's no dad. You know, when there's no dad in the house, I think that kid is out of control, or even she's out of control. That's why I always think a home needs a dad and a mom. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion anyway. You know what I mean?
Normally they say, yeah, there's a problem, they're beefing in other areas. Me, I can't personally go to a kid and say, okay, drop the knife. Don't carry a knife today. Because something happens to that person, I'm going to feel guilty, that's one. And two, would you tell these soldiers to drop their guns when they're going to war? No one can realistically do that to nobody, because they're not thinking. They're kids at the end of the day. We've got to remember we're dealing with kids that will just take a life like this.
So what ages are we talking about that this starts from?
Talking about 11, 12, as younger.
Carrying a zombie knife?
Yes, well, 100%.
If I'm a young person who comes from an area where the majority of the people that I'm going to bump into carry knives, I'm going to be more persuaded to carry a knife.
Carry a knife, because as they say, it's better to have one and don't need it than to need one and don't have it. And yeah, I know it's a sad way to look at it, but I think that's probably the mind state of a lot of these kids right now. You know what I mean? Kids that see what happened to people around them who never had a knife on them, and they probably think, you know what, if he had a knife, he could probably have defended himself. So I think the government needs to, and it's weird me talking like this, because I used to be that guy that bun that, I don't want to hear that, bun all this, but you know, as I said, you know what I mean, growing up, and looking at it now from an adult, it's mad even listening to myself speak about what I'm gonna say, which I think the government need tighter laws. You know what I mean? The government, when the government clamped down, and because at one stage in Birmingham, London, Manchester, and these places, yeah, gun violence was terrible. Every day there was a shooting. And then the government switched it up and said, if you get caught with a gun, it's like 5 years, or you know what I mean. And then there was putting, each bullet was like a year or two on top or something. You know what I mean. And people just stepped away from it. You know what I mean. Most people step away from gun. So it's weird me talking like this, because I was always one of them that didn't want to hear none of this either. But growing up, I'm telling you, the government needs to do something. You know what I mean? I don't know if the government needs to probably say, yo, listen, if you get caught with one of these knives, it's 10 years. I'm telling you right now, if you know you're going to get 10 years for walking with a knife, you ain't walking with a knife on the road. You ain't doing, and I'm not talking about no 10 years do half of it. I'm talking about 10 years. You see what I'm saying? Because the way the system runs in the UK is, if you get 10 years in court, you know you're going to do 5. If you get 5 years, you're doing 2.5. You get 2, you're doing 1. If the government was to flip the script and say, look, if you get caught with a knife, yeah, it's 10 years minimum behind bars sentence. I'm telling you right now. This is why sometimes I think the government don't want to stop it, because if you want to stop it, I'm telling you, you know for a fact, if you out there and you hear anything like this, what I'm saying, I'm telling you right now, you say to these youths, or if you put it out to the public, anyone get caught with a knife is looking at 10 years, no minimum stretch, behind bars, not no half thing. I'm telling you, I can't see. I can tell you right now, 80% of the youths are gonna be like, "Yo, I ain't doing 10 years in prison for no knife." But I think for some reason the government's just letting it ride.
For protection, not knowing that the consequences and the probability of that knife being used against me is tremendously high. A lot of young people carrying knives, seeing knives, being around knives is due to peer pressure, especially from the ages of, say, 12, 13, going to school. It was a form of protection. Fear can be a huge motivating factor in carrying a knife.
Yeah, facts.
It's almost become culturally.
But also, fear can also be what make kids stop carrying knife. Because if you fear the possibility of 10 years behind bars, that's a fear as well, where you're not gonna want it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, fear will make kids pick up knife. But I'm telling you, if the government put some extra fear down with if to get caught with a knife, you know what I'm saying, they ain't gonna want to carry it. Just like fear will make them pick it up, fear will make them put it down. Facts.
Accepted and culturally expected to carry a knife.
When children this young are carrying weapons, it's perhaps unsurprising, but still devastating, that peers their same age end up dying. Following the tragic deaths of 5 teenagers in 2021, Croydon was labelled the knife crime capital. Of London's worst affected boroughs, Croydon saw a 25% increase in incidents from 2022 to 2023. Such drastic figures have necessitated a wide-ranging response, so now emergency community meetings are held on a regular basis, bringing together residents, the police, local activists and campaigners.
We got a call at 8:35 to say that a 14-year-old was stabbed by West Croydon bus station. Thankfully, it wasn't life-threatening. Of course, it'll be life-changing. By 4:30 in the afternoon, we were told that another 2 people were stabbed, but we've been corrected that it was only 1 that was stabbed and the other hit over the head by a hammer.
This is real. This is tangible. We are never further than somebody who has experienced it, and it keeps on going.
The fight against knife crime is far from over in Croydon, so now the police are trialling controversial new technology in a bid to keep criminals off the street.
So on Tuesday, we had a live facial recognition operation in Croydon Town Centre. So on that day, we managed to arrest 9 people who've been wanted, some for some time.
However, there are concerns in the community that the use of facial recognition will lead to racial inequality, something previously echoed by...
You know what's mad, yeah? I tell you another thing again, and I tell you what, I'm surprising myself the way I've been thinking now since I've grown up. Listen, I don't care about no facial recognition camera look. You know what I mean? I think the people that's worried about it is the ones carrying the knife and the ones, you know what I mean, and the ones is out there living loose. I don't listen. Put cameras all alongside the road. I don't care. Put a drone up that flies around and check faces, and I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm not about that life. You know what I mean? I'm not about. I'm done. Listen, it's mad, bro. But it's mad. But it don't bother me. You know what I mean? I think these kind of technology that's the government's using and police is using, I think if it bothers you, it's because you are the problem. You know what I mean? You're the problem. I don't care about all that. Why? Because I ain't got nothing to hide no more. I'm done with that. I'm done with, you know.
By civil rights groups. It wouldn't be the first time that the police have been accused of unfairly targeting certain sections of society. The use of stop and search has led to numerous complaints from black communities about police discrimination.
All right. The stop and search thing is what? Now, I don't even think the stop and search thing, and check this out. When I was younger and stop and search was going on or whatever, and police used to just pull up at me and my brethren and search us, I used to hate that. But again, growing up and living a life where I'm not supporting gang violence, I'm not supporting knife violence, gun violence, the stop and search wouldn't bother me. You know what I mean? And yes, the police was probably more likely to stop black youths, because if you realistically look at it, even though I'm saying it's not a black thing with the knives no more, it's not. You know what I mean? But majority of the crimes that's going on with knife violence and gang violence, it is young black youths. So I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh yeah, the police are picking on the black youths. No, no. You see what I'm saying? It's like when the Muslims was getting blamed for terrorists and they was stopping them, and a lot of people could argue and say, yeah, but they was picking on them. But majority of the terror acts that was committed was by Muslims. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you look at dogfighting and things like that, majority of the houses that was getting raided for dogfights was whites. You see what I'm saying? Because they was more prominent to be involved in the dogfights. You see what I'm saying? Maybe not this side of Birmingham, but I'm talking I don't even want to get too much into like I know too much, but I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? So if you look at majority of all kinds of different crime, it's the police know the police know exactly what they're doing. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna blame and say yes, racism going on, they're stopping all the black youths nah. They're stopping the black youths because majority of the knife crime is committed by young black youths, young black gangs. You see what I'm saying? Come on now. I listen, I'm surprised I'm speaking like this, but to be honest, I got kids to raise in this world myself, you know what I mean? So it's time I speak up too. I think it's time most people start speaking up instead of just sitting there holding a back seat and going to the pub on the weekends and having a drink. And it's crazy, bro.
Met's own statistics show that of all the people who were stopped and searched within the last year, 38.8% were black. That's despite London's black community making up only 13.5% of the capital's population.
Yeah, but then if you check how much of the crimes is committed by young blacks and how many knife crime was committed, it's gonna come back. Most of the majority of the knife crime was young black members, young black gang members, or you know what I mean. So
according to the latest census, despite strong criticism for its disproportionate use, some former police officers say stop and search still has an important role to play.
Well, I think knife crime is a problem across the country. So it's clearly the figures are escalating. Violence is getting worse. Knives are being used more often in violent crimes. So I think it's a huge issue for policing to tackle. I think what works is actually the unpopular aspect of policing, which is stop and search. It's proactive policing. It's officers getting out and identifying the people who like to be carrying knives in society and committing serious crimes, serious assaults. I think that works, albeit it's very unpopular. Policing isn't a popularity contest, it's about protecting the public and protecting society. Stop and search should be done as an intelligence-led, proactive task or tactic. So it's a tactic that police officers use to identify and remove people with knives from society. I think one of the main problems with stop and search, it's always based or judged on the number of arrests that come from stop and search. That isn't its sole purpose. It's meant as a deterrent factor, as a deterrent tactic.
It's clear that knife crime is no longer solely a police issue, but something that has to be tackled on multiple levels.
In South London, one charity is doing just that and finding a creative use for thousands of confiscated knives. Steel Warriors takes the weapons and melts down the metal to make public gyms that have been installed in multiple parks across the capital.
That's really the core message here at Steel Warriors. It's about turning a negative into a positive.
Yeah, that's it.
And so everything that we focus on here is actually about transformation. What we do once the gyms have been installed, so there's a manufacturing process that converts the actual knives into the bars that you see behind us here. Once that process is finished and the gyms are installed, we then teach calisthenics and bodyweight training so that the place is actually not left redundant. The knives actually come from an amnesty process. So the knives are kept in storage, they come from the police, the amnesty bins, the proceeds of stop and search. The principle is to ensure that fitness is not a privilege. We encourage fitness for basically everybody. So our gyms are centred in gang-neutral zones in publicly accessible places and spaces.
The people using these gyms have fostered a close community who want to improve their fitness and their local area, in part because knife crime is never far away.
Do any of you know people that have carried knives previously? Show of hands.
Nowadays, we have a problem with the youth not really knowing what to do. We're all bored, and when we're bored, one thing that we can turn to is our emotions. A lot of people nowadays, like, they're just angry, like they just wanna get into problems. But when you have something like this outdoor gym here, you can actually change, you can convert that negative energy into something positive. It's a much more productive thing to do than to go outside and look for problems. This is one of the best things someone can do for themselves.
Just like these men,
Yeah,
London
I like the idea
teenager
that I like the
Enfield
idea what
seller
they're doing
had
now.
concerns about the danger of knives too. He wrote to the highest levels of power, urging action to be taken to protect young people. Then he was tragically stabbed to death in an unprovoked attack
Wow.
back in 2008. Patrick Green runs a charitable trust set up in his name to warn other youths about the risks of carrying a knife.
This is the Benkeseller exhibition. It's a series of interconnecting rooms which tell the story of Ben and other people who've been directly affected by knife crime.
That is crazy. That is crazy that he was actually out there right into the heads and the higher heads trying to stop it. And he actually got killed by the same thing he was trying to stop.
And it tells it in a very immersive way, and we use a lot of interaction and different teaching styles in each of the rooms.
How bad would you rate knife crime in the capital?
As bad as I've
Bad.
ever known it in many ways. We've seen a really big increase in the last 12 months in terms of knife crime offences. We see it from the young people who come to visit this exhibition on a daily basis. 7 out of 10 of those young people are concerned about knife crime. Many of them don't feel safe. For those young people who don't feel safe, they are far more likely to think that a knife will protect them, and therefore far more likely to think that they may carry a knife in the future.
You've got a really inspirational centre here. What is it that young people tell you once they've gone through, once they've had the talks from various people?
It's clear when they leave here, their attitudes and behaviours change. They understand something that they probably haven't connected before, which is that abstract idea that some of them will have about you carrying a knife to protect yourself. They suddenly realise in carrying a knife, they are carrying the pain, misery and tragedy that knife crime brings. 1 in 4 young people who come here think a knife will protect them. That's a crazy statistic and shows that education is really needed. We've also seen, a propensity for knife carrying to get younger. And that's why it's really important to talk to young people, particularly around the last year of their education in primary school and the first year of their education in secondary school. That massive change that they make in terms of their environment and their friendship groups. Getting in early, helping young people to understand some of the challenges they will face and how they can positively address those challenges. Really, really important. Because otherwise what we tend to see is all the other drivers around knife crime helping young people make more negative decisions, and we see increased knife crime.
So one of the things we do over at Voice for Youth Against Violence is provide opportunities through sports, whether that's boxing, whether it's football, where they're able to come be part of something greater, something bigger than themselves, learn to communicate, learn to relate to other people.
I think that's what's missing as well, because I know when I was growing up, we had what was the called now? What were they called? It's like after school and even on weekends, we had places we could go play snooker or basketball, badminton, tennis. What did we used to call them now? Was it social clubs or I can't remember what we used to call them. But there was always there. We had something to do, or we'd go meet up after school or on the weekends or when nothing ain't going on. Most of those, well, all of those are probably gone in Birmingham now. I can't tell from when I've actually passed a place where kids can go and just chill out for free, no charge, free. I'm not talking where, because a lot of parents ain't gonna pay for that. You know what I mean? Then what you end up with the kids just roaming on the street, and that's how they get into these kind of problem. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the stuff the government used to put in place for kids to just go and chill out and relax is gone.
A lot of young people are carrying trauma. Through these programs, we look at developing a positive mindset, look at positive interactions and making them feel positive about themselves. And our programs are aimed at tackling at early age getting in with some of the worst prolific offenders and providing alternatives for these helpless young victims.
Multiple charities that we spoke to said that the actions that they can take will only go so far, and what's really needed is more funding, fast.
So many conversations, the people in them are so disassociated from the realities of what's going on in working class lives in London, but yet you're making decisions over public health approaches and who gets funding.
I think that was called leisure centres. I think that's what they was called, leisure centres. I can't even remember what that was called because I can't tell from when I've heard someone use that word.
Who doesn't? What is this going to look like for Britain? Because it's not just happening in London. This is happening in Norwich and in other places. We've seen it on the news. This is not a black thing. This is a societal thing. This is an epidemic.
Because this generation's gone bad. And if it gets worse than this, you lot won't be able to manage nothing.
We reached out to both the Mayor's office and the Metropolitan Police. Both declined to give us an interview. Instead, Sadiq Khan's communications team provided us with a press release drawing comparisons to the rise in violent crime and the cost of living crisis.
Does the Mayor of London get it?
I definitely see him attend a lot of children's funerals, so I couldn't really speak to does he get it personally. I know he's a parent. I'm sure as a human being he understands. But I think this is now becoming something that has political legs.
Would you be willing to take Sadiq Khan out on the street so he can see it firsthand?
100. I would love to take him into Croydon. He comes to Croydon and meet the real youths that really need help, and then you'll see what is going on. Because I don't think he knows what's going on. They say they do, but they don't.
For too long, we've seen a lot of bickering and the knife crime being used as a political football. We have suffered in terms of the approach of tackling the issue. Politicians is a national issue. Let's get behind this and let's tackle this together.
There's a huge issue within police, and I think policing across the country, and specifically London, is broken. I think it's going to take 5, maybe 10 years to get it anywhere near what it should be and what it used to be. So I think right away across society, whoever the next government is, whenever the next general election is, has got a massive issue in dealing with crime, punishment, law enforcement.
So far, at least 20 people have been knifed to death in London in the first 4 months of this year. As we've heard, there's a long road ahead to getting the situation under control. But despite the gloomy statistics and the frequency of attacks, experts say they still have hope that the number of deaths and injuries from stabbings will be slashed instead of innocent people in the capital.
I'm very hopeful. In 2021, we had 6 children from this borough that was murdered. 5 were murdered in the borough. One of our children went into Lambeth and got murdered. Apart from Eliane, who wasn't involved in any gang
I remember that. That was just the other day. That was pretty sad. That was
activity. We're now on 26 months with no teenage murder associated with gangs in the borough.
So there is that potential.
There's
with
definite
the
hope.
work that you guys do.
Definitely hope.
I am hopeful. I have a godson, he's 6, and I look at him, and my own children are now teenagers, and it's for him and his generation that I continue. And it is hard, and sometimes you need a bit of support, but hope comes from waking up every day and hitting the ground and saying, today I hope to make a change for just one person, and that's all we can ever do.
For young people believing that it's too late for me to put down a knife, it's too late for me to leave a gang, it's too late for me to make a positive choice. I'm telling you from somebody who's been there, who's done it, it is never too late. The fact that you're breathing and you're watching this is an opportunity. There is an opportunity for you to change. You can become something, you can become more than a statistic. You don't have to be a victim of knife crime. You don't have to carry a knife to feel protected. When you're actually involved in carrying knives, involved in stabbings, been a victim of being stabbed, it does pretty much feel impossible. I'm here to tell you that it's not impossible. In fact, it's very possible. It won't be easy. It will come with a lot of sacrifice, but it will be one of the best choices you can ever and have ever made.
As Croydon lifts itself out
Real
of that
talk, bro, real
title,
talk.
there'll be other places that then fall into the worst for knife crime in the capital, in the country. Knowing what you guys have done here with the various partnerships that you've got, what is your advice to those towns, those cities that then find themselves in that terrible position?
Very good question. I'd say 3 things. Number 1, as a community, you need to pull together. The community is not only one that's reflective of colour, but the community is shared views of a locality. I'd recommend to other boroughs, try and have a weekly meeting where your local residents, the police, the local authority, where you can be together collegiately, with a shared view, shared value, and a shared commitment to reducing serious youth crime in a community. I remember 3-4 years ago, I never thought I'd be sitting in meetings with the Metropolitan Police on a weekly basis, but we've been consistent for weekly for years, and we continue to do so. We have the Mayor of Croydon who's regularly in our meetings, we have head teachers regularly in the meetings, we have politicians in the meetings every week, but more importantly we have the community in the meetings, and it can happen. The community can stand together to bring about change.
Yo, people. Hey, thanks for watching that one. That's a touchy story, man. That's a touchy story. As I was saying earlier in the video, if anyone it does, I was gonna say UK, but it's, you know, it's not. It doesn't have to be just a question for anyone in the UK. But if anyone got any ideas of what I can relate to my people that's dealing with stuff like this, let me know. Like, you know what I mean? Because there must be a way to calm it down. Me personally, I think the government can do a lot more. You know what I mean? Just like that guy was saying, it's fair that make these kids picks up the knife and, you know, walk on the street with a knife. So just like it's fair that make him pick the knife up, I believe if the government was to harden on the sentence for carrying a knife, not knife crime, just for carrying a knife, I reckon fair might make them put the knife down. So again, people, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, so you'll get notified for when the video goes live. Peace. God bless.